Hello, I know it's been a while, but it's Jay Ivory with Rivers and Wastelands. I'm finding that when it is time for me to release a word, I will live it like the day or the day before. And then Sunday, the sermon will be exactly what I've been living. So here I am. And I don't really know what the title is yet. I guess I'll find out as we talk. But what God is talking about right now is anger. And he's talking about the opportunities that we are presented now as we're transitioning into the things that God told us that we would walk into. We're being presented with opportunities to regress. We're being presented with opportunities to go off the way we used to go off or respond in the way that we used to respond. And for me, I don't necessarily hear God telling me what to do. It's more that I am being left with the choice. I'm being left with the choice to respond in the way that I would have responded or to respond in a new way. Like the whole time that God has been working on me on the inside in these last 2.5 years, right? He's been teaching me how to respond differently because the way that I responded before was not only dishonoring to God, but it also just didn't help the situations, no matter what the situation was. Whether I would blow off in anger or whether it was I would wall up and have nothing to say, or whether it was that I would become a martyr and just let people treat me a certain type of way so I could be validated in the fact that they were mistreating me, right? That's the way I used to respond. And now I find myself going, okay, God, what do you want me to say? Because it's not the anger that's the issue. It's not the anger. Because when I was in high school, I used to tell my friend, I had two friends really close, Candace and Javon, and I don't know if they ever will see this, but we used to just say all of this crazy stuff in high school, but some of it was prophetic because I promise you a lot we're walking in some of the things that we used to talk about. But I used to tell them I'm gonna write a book. I was like 16 and I would say I'm gonna write a book called Anger is a Second Emotion. Because and I didn't know I was going to be a counselor at that time, and now I'm a teacher, but at the time I did not know I was going to go into psychology. I didn't know. But I learned later, way after I had said this in high school all the time, was that anger is the second emotion. And what that means is we feel something first and anger then comes and steps on top of that. Most often, we don't even recognize the original emotion. Anger comes on top and masks the other emotion, and then we act in that. And so, for example, if you're humiliated, you get angry, or if you're sad, there's anger, or if there's embarrassment, there's anger. If there's injustice, there's anger. And so we're operating out of the anger and not out of the original emotion, right? And so I used to say, I'm going to write this book called Anger is a Second Emotion. And so now I'm talking, this is 23-ish years later. I'm still seeing God teach on that in my life and in the people in my life, right? That when we have an opportunity to present an angry response, there's a pause that he wants us to have where we go in the natural. There's a pause we should naturally have that's called emotional regulation, right? Where we learn to just be like, hold on, let me assess, let me make a good choice, right? But in the spirit realm, we have to do the same thing and say, now God, what do you want me to do with this? Because the anger is not the problem, it's the response to the anger that's the problem. It's when we don't even listen and say, okay, God, what are you trying to show me? What are you trying to do? How do you want me to respond? What is the thing that's going to bring you glory? What's going to make sure that I don't damage how far I've come or what you've given me, right? And the sermon I just listened to today was literally that. It was talking about how we can ruin things that God gave us in a moment of anger, that we are triggered by whatever, and then we could damage it if we're not careful. And we have to learn how to respond in a way that glorifies God. We have to learn how to respond in a way that that doesn't destroy what he's given us, right? And that does not look like, old Jennifer, being a martyr and letting people treat you any type of way. That's not it. Because there's a way to respond that that still has you speaking up for yourself, or it still has you addressing the real issue without losing control, without using any foul language. Like if you're in a professional setting, you can do it professionally and still not damage your credibility or your character, right? And so in the last few days, I have had opportunities to be really upset. The way that people are talking to me, or the way, not everybody, it's just certain little things. Like something happens and it's like, dang, that's upsetting, because the core is it's inconvenient, right? Or speaking to someone that you all had a great relationship and something has changed, and now every time you say anything to them, they are responding in like disgust or like irritation, and you know that you haven't done anything to them. You could pop off back at them, or you could not, right? Or for me, yesterday, I was at the DMV. We know how that can be. These people were so nice, and I made a mistake in what I asked for, and so immediately when she was done what I initially asked for, I had to then tell her, oh, but I need something else. And the second thing I asked for the first thing had to be completely voided. And I could see her anger, even though I didn't know that I had made the mistake, but it was my mistake. It wasn't hers, right? And so I could have responded to her anger in anger. But instead I was like, that's on me. And I apologized because it was my issue, even though her anger was kind of unwarranted in the fact that it was a mistake, right? And in me responding in humility and being apologetic because it was my issue, my mistake, her anger dissipated. And how often is it that we are in situations where somebody's anger may be warranted, right? But our response to their anger is anger. And so now it escalates. And in the spirit, it's the same thing, because anger comes along to it's almost like an accelerant, right? It wants to destroy. But the thing is, it's the response to the anger, right? So how are we going to be better as we go forward? We are now transitioning into new things. We're transitioning into new places. We are literally sitting in the middle of things that God promised us, and we're going to be presented with opportunities to respond like we used to. And my encouragement today is that you take what you learned, because this is for people who have already done the work of changing who you are and your character and your responses and all of that. But that was theory. Come on. That was in theory. Now we are in practice. There's a difference between when you're in class and you're learning a skill. Anybody who has a professional job, you know that when you're learning it and it's in the book, it's one thing. But when you're in the field, it's another thing, right? And so now we're in practice. Now we're in a position to do the things, or to live out the things that God has been teaching us. That Holy Spirit has been whispering in our ears, right? That God has sent people to train us up in whatever that looks like for you. Now we've gone from theory to practice, and you're going to be presented with opportunities to respond differently. And my encouragement is that you go to God and pray and say, God, I know these opportunities are coming. I know that I'm going to have a chance to do it differently than I've done it before. Some of the opportunities are going to appear very familiar, because they are. It's going to be an opportunity that looks a lot like something you've gone through years ago, months ago, and you responded a different way. And the people are going to be looking for you to respond the way you used to. And here's the thing. What God is saying is that you have a choice. That's what I kept hearing God say. You have a choice. The situations are going to keep coming. They're going to come in our lives, right? You have a choice. How are you going to respond? How are you going to live? And again, I want to reiterate, God is not saying that there's an issue with anger. He's saying it's the way that we used to respond. And he's saying that we've learned through our study, through our prayer, through exposure to whomever God is putting in your life to help you be better. He's taught us a new way. But that was theory. And now it's time to put it into practice, because we are going into and some of us are sitting in what God promised. And what we don't want to do is destroy it because of how we respond to the opportunity that the enemy, or maybe God presents it just to see what you're going to do, right? That we're not going to lose it because of a moment. We're not going to lose it because of a moment. And I could sit here all day and tell y'all different stories that have happened in the last couple of weeks where I had a choice. And even when I said, like out my mouth, I would say whatever was going on. In my head, in my spirit, I was saying, God, I need you to help me because I feel what I call Baltimore Jen. If you know me, I call her Baltimore Jen because she's the one that speaks up for me when I'm really feeling some type of way. When I feel her rising up, it's quick whisper. It's not drop to your knees and all that. It's literally like, God, all right, all right. I need your help. I need you to help me what I'm about to say. And it's amazing how just the request is what God is looking for. He's just looking for you to know where your help comes from, right? And again, I didn't hear God tell me to pray. I didn't hear him say, remember to talk to me first, because he already taught me that in theory when I was in class, when I was studying, right? Now I'm in practice. I'm out in the field and there's no teacher right there. You got to lean back on what you've been taught, right? And so that's my encouragement for today. I know that some people are like, you don't, the videos are coming few and far between, but I want to make sure I keep telling you that I want to be responsible with the platform that God has given me. And I only want to speak when God tells me to. There are different things that God has told me in the last couple of weeks, but I didn't hear him say, share that. This is not one of those. This is one that he was like, it's a season of opportunity. And some of those opportunities are opportunities for you to go off like you used to, or to respond in the way that you used to. And I'm believing God that we are going to respond well, and I'm believing God that we are going to see the fruit of those better responses. Again, Jay Ivory, I love you. Go to the comments and talk to me about your whatever your triggers are, so we can conquer them. Love you very much.